This episode of the Die Hard Den podcast is dedicated to my son, Curtis III, for his 23rd birthday. Happy birthday, Dad loves you. Coming up on this edition of the Die Hard Den podcast, Seany J and I look at the signing of one guard, Joshua Garnett. Then we take a look at some potential hirings of 2 defensive assistants. And we give our review of the Super Bowl. All this and more coming up on this edition of the Die Hard Den podcast. Watch out. Here comes that roar. What up, though? This is Kurt Steele, and welcome to the Die Hard Den podcast. And as always, I'm with my man, Seany J.
What's happening, people?
Hey, it's good to be back on the show with my man, Seany J. And I want to thank the individuals on the Facebook page. We're growing by leaps and bounds. It's taking a little bit of time to start growing, but we are growing each week. And we hit another milestone, and thank you all for liking the page. Thank you so much. We appreciate your supporting us in this venture with the Die Hard Den podcast. And thank you for all those who listen on a regular basis. And we're going to start the show like we always do. It's going to be real quick. It is time to tell me something good. And this week I have the luxury of having to only tell me something good for this week. This week we have Darius Slay continues to immerse himself in the Detroit community, continuing to go out to local high school events, basketball, football games. He just attended another basketball game the other day. Like, as soon as he came back from Miami from the Super Bowl, he was right back in the community, showing his face, doing some good community involvement. And another thing with Darius Slay, it's been reported that the team is in talks to extend his contract to give him a long-term deal. And I know he has the backing of one Deion Sanders. So Deion Sanders said, Detroit, pay the man. That's the guy you want to have on your team. And that's a big endorsement from a Hall of Famer.
Yes, it is. I like Slay. I hope he finishes his career here in Detroit. I hope the Lions re-sign him. They traded away a couple popular players the past couple seasons, and Golden Tate and, of course, Nino, Condre Diggs. They can't afford to trade away Slay. I hope he stays. He's big and popular. He has a lot of community work here. I hope the Lions aren't stupid this time. They'll trade another one, or not just popular, but still very productive players.
Correct. Yeah, he is definitely a productive, coming off his 3rd Pro Bowl. So outstanding job with Darius Slay. So now it's time to go on the ball with the offense. Real quick, right now, the only really big thing is that the Lions just signed offensive guard Joshua Garnett, former 2016 first-round draft pick that was recently released by the San Francisco 49ers. He was out of football 2019 to 2020. He's only 25 years old, 6'5", 305, plays at Stanford, where he won the Outland Award for Best Interior Lineman in 2015. Now, here is the twist. He had a serious knee injury in 2017, which led to the 49ers trading for one Laken Tomlinson. So that's the guy who got hurt in San Francisco, and we traded Laken Tomlinson out there because of his injury. That's an interesting tidbit, don't you think so?
Yes, I do. How ironic. I had a high hopes for Lincoln when I was here. He looked, I don't know, a little lost, out of place. He got overwhelmed, overpowered by guys. And he was supposed to be one of the strongest men on the team, one of the hardest working guys in the weight room, but he still got overpowered by bigger guys on the defensive line. And now he goes, like so many times when a former Lion leaves, he he finds himself, becomes an all-pro, a solid professional, playing the Super Bowl, and I thank God Kansas City did win, because all those Lions on the 49ers, we never heard the end of it. So I'm glad they won for that reason. But we'll talk more about that later. But
yeah.
And what the Lions are trying to do, they're trying to, say, hey, we gave you our former first-round guard, and we're going to see if your former first-round guard can have similar success here in Detroit. It'd be nice if we could. I still want them to re-sign Graham Glasgow, and I still have high hopes for my man, Bo Bishwazo, but we'll see, because this guy Garnett, he's had a lot of injuries, like you said, in his short career. That's one of the reasons he was out of football last year. But can he get back in Michigan come back. Hopefully the Lions did their research, worked them out, gave him a thorough physical to make sure he's, can go again.
Right. I think that this is probably more of a depth signing. I don't think they're really signing him for a starter's role. If he can build himself into that, fine. I don't think that he is going to replace Graham Glasgow or Kenny Wiggins or anyone that's on the team right now. I just think that we needed some depth on the offensive line, and especially in the interior. So the Lions made a move and signed Garnett. I really hope, like you said, that they re-sign Graham Glasgow, a guy who can play any position on the line. That's invaluable. So I believe that hopefully the Lions can make it a executive decision and re-sign Graham Glasgow and keep him in the state of Michigan.
Yes.
All right. Moving on. Defend the den. All right. Now we're going on the defensive side of the ball, and we have a few things to report. First of all, we have the Lions have been linked to former Tennessee Titans linebacker coach Tyrone McKenzie. Now, I've had some interaction with some individuals online about him. People are saying, oh, he's been hired. Well, there's no official post on the Lions Facebook. Not the Lions Facebook, Lions Instagram, the Lions website. He's linked to Detroit. Does that mean that he's not in Detroit or not going to be in Detroit? No. It's just he hasn't been officially announced as a coach in Detroit or at Allen Park. I will say this, the Tennessee Titans have removed him from their website. So he's no longer in Tennessee. I believe he's going to be in Detroit. I know that these sort of media members aren't just reporting that for giggles, but they probably haven't worked out his contract yet or what his role is going to be. So that's why he's not on the Lions website. But the job he did in Tennessee with the linebackers were pretty good. They had a pretty good defense, and those linebackers weren't very well known, but they played solid, and they had a really good linebacker core in Tennessee. So what do you think about the potential hire of Tyrone McKenzie in Detroit?
I like it. When I first posted about him potentially coming to Detroit, a lot of the fans on our page, they liked it too. They really liked the idea. Like you said, he worked well with the linebackers. He took some no-name, mediocre linebackers and made him to a good unit. And if he can do the same thing with our current linebackers like Tavay and Jared Davis and Christian Jones, those guys, I'll be very much happy. Hopefully we can add Isaiah Simmons to the mix. I'm sorry, I still want Simmons over Okudah because, like I said, Simmons can play all over the field. Not just linebacker, not just defense, and he can play some strong safety. So I'd love to have Simmons. He's like a star rover all over the field, and both the new defensive coordinator and hopefully the new linebacker coach will use him. He's a wild card on defense. He's all over the field. You have to account for him. No matter he is, he's like a poor man's Lawrence Taylor, if you will. He's supposed to be that good.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now the Lions are projected still to take Okudah. Now, we'll say this about mock drafts and the draft experts. They're not always correct. Definitely, I think probably about 9 times out of 10, they get the number 1 pick right.
Mm-hmm.
But anywhere from then on down, it's whatever the best player on the board for that team. And then it doesn't work out. It doesn't match up every time. So, but I like Okudah. I know you like Simmons. If we do draft Okudah, there could be a possible new defensive back coach because the Lions are linked to former Patriot cornerback and longtime NFL player Tony Carter has been reportedly hired as a defensive assistant. Again, just like McKenzie, he's linked to the Lions. They've said to be hiring him. This is coming from Phil Yates, NFL insider. Now, one thing about Carter is that this will be his first time coaching at any level. He starts in the NFL as a coach, longtime player. What would you think about that hire for a young coach to come in and start coaching defensive backs?
He's going to come in and be the man right away. The defensive, he's not an assistant. He's going to be hired as the actual defensive backs coach, huh? Well,
that's the reports.
Well, you got to get your first gig somewhere. I know some guys say, well, you got to start at the bottom. Like you said, start off as an assistant or administrative assistant or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not necessarily. Some guys just jump right into the fire. He's a former defensive back. Oh, he played the position for several years. He hopefully can work with the guys, improve them. Like for instance, like I said, Deion Sanders was rumored to be the next head coach at his alma mater, Florida State. No coaching experience. He's one of the greatest players in FSU history, and he be a curiosity, a draw, sell a few tickets. But does he know the X's and O's part of it? Who knows? Same thing like when the Wolverines hired Juwan Howard for his first coaching gig. He had no head coaching experience. He was a long-time assistant in the NBA, and he's a long-time player, and he was said to be rumored to be in line for the next head coaching job. So guys get their first gig somewhere, somehow. There's no direct path. He's a former player going up to Carter. If he can, improve the guys with their technique and tell them, turn your damn head around when you see the receiver's eyes getting big and look for the ball. Don't play like Nevin Lawson. I'm all for that.
I hear you, my man. The one thing that will help Carter is the fact that the new defensive coordinator is a longtime defensive backs coach. So he has that background as somebody who will be his boss or supervisor on the staff, who is a longtime defensive back coach to help him in his job. But along with the inexperience, Corey Unling is a first-time coordinator. He's coached a long time in the league, but however, he's never been a coordinator. He's only been a defensive backs coach. Now, I won't say only been, but that is a big position to coach because of the fact that is a skill position that is of high demand on any team. You want your secondary to be able to cover. And he did a good job. Even at Philly, look at last year where he had a makeshift defensive backfield because of all the injuries to the corners in Philadelphia. So it's going to be a crapshoot. I think that, it's some inexperience back there as far as, a first-time defensive assistant and a first-time coordinator. What do you think is going to be key for their success with the inexperience with the coaches back there?
They gotta win, make the players better, coach them up, make them better. Obviously, Patricia and Quinn are taking a risk by going with some inexperienced assistants because they're on the hot seat. If they don't win this year, they're both out, and everybody's out of a job. So they are taking a risk by hiring these guys. Hopefully, these are the best guys for the job. Hopefully they can improve the players. Hopefully they'll win with these guys as the assistant coaches. Because like I said, it's not like Quinn and Patricia got forever. They got to win this year or else they're out of a job. A lot of fans won them fired last year, but they'll win this year. They're different.
I will say this about the hires by Patricia. I think Patricia can mold these guys because they're kind of inexperienced, and he can make them into the way he wants them to coach. Because if you look at the guys that were there before these guys, some of these guys were already established. So it's kind of hard to, especially Pasqualoni, it's kind of hard to get someone like that out of their comfort zone. They're going to coach the way they coach, and they see things from one way. And it's kind of hard to change someone, especially was that can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
So sometimes you get a coach who's set in their ways, and it's hard to get them to change. He's getting them young and or you at least young into coaching, so he can kind of help mold them into what he wants his defense to look like.
Well, like I said, it's a very important off season for Patricia and the Lions. Got to get that strength and conditioning coach, still get the players big and strong, and you got to coach, get these young coach and experience ready in the off season, because this season is no time to be experimenting. Like I said, his own job is on the line, so he's taking a big risk with these inexperienced guys as opposed to guys who had a few years under their belt.
I think it's going to be interesting just because of the fact that we're not too far off from spring conditioning. I mean, we're in that beginning of February. You think about it, a few more weeks, couple weeks, we got the combine. Then you have the draft. So then you have, rookies coming in to report for OTAs. And, we're only about a month and a half, 2 months out from those guys reporting in for that what do you call that, the spring OTA. So it's time to start building that staff, especially strength and conditioning, because you want to have a solid program in place. You want that person to come in and get a lay of the land at Allen Park, make any changes they want to make to the facilities that's going to benefit their program. So I hopefully here in the next couple of weeks we'll see that staff continue to fill out and by leaps and bounds, so everybody can be in place before the OTA start.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, time, and time is going by fast. Patricia, it's off season, but he's very busy. Got a lot to do and get prepared because, like I said, this is the 2020 season is a big one for him.
Right. I would think you want his staff to be in place prior to the combine
or the draft, like at least by the draft.
Yeah. Right. But even I would say by the combine, because you look at the role that the coaching staff plays at the combine, player interviews, work, some private little workout sessions, helping the other coaches actually run the combine. So I would think they would have that stuff in place prior to the combine, which is in at least like another 2 weeks. The end of February.
Yes, end of February.
The end of February is the combine. So
yes.
Hopefully we can get that stuff filled out by the coaching staff and get that stuff done. All right, so that's Defend the Den. Now it is time for your favorite segment in mine, 2 Points Conversing. All right, this week, 2 Points Conversing. I'm just going to ask you some questions and we're going to talk about this thing. What did you think about the Super Bowl as a whole? I mean, do you think it was a good game or?
It took the normal routine they usually do. They kind of start off slow, but it get interesting near the end, when teams, when the time's running out, guys really start getting serious, try to win the game. In the beginning, it was kind of slow, a little slow. But like I said, it heated up in the end, second half. I'm glad it was a good competitive game to the end. It wasn't we've seen some Super Bowls with blowouts and they were over almost by halftime. But this one was interesting to the end. I enjoyed it. I did. And like I said earlier, I'm not a big Kansas City fan, but I'm glad they won to spare us from hearing about all those former Lions on the 49ers who won the Super Bowl. So including Martin Mayhew and Tomlinson and Anthony Zetto and a couple more guys.
Tease Tabor?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Tease Tabor's on their practice squad. He's not on their active roster, but Zetto was in the game.
He would still got a ring, though, if they were won, right?
Yeah. Probably so. Yeah, I think they still, practice squad still gets a ring. I think that, well, I know I saw Zetto on the field and actually got away with the what do you call that? Roughing the passer, because he hit Patrick Mahomes in the helmet on a play, but the referees didn't see it. But I did see him on the field. I'm happy for I'm happy for those guys, to get a chance to play. I wish they could have did it in Detroit. I've never wished any ill will on former Lions or, I say my ill will for the I don't want them to get hurt, seriously injured or anything like that. But I say my ill will for the Packers and the Vikings and the Bears and the Patriots and the Cowboys. I save those for those guys, that ill will for those guys. I know we talked about this a little bit off air. Do you think that the price of the admissions was a reason why there was less than a full stadium in Miami? We talked about it. There's a lot of seats empty. Well, we talked via messenger during the game, and you were like, there's a lot of seats empty upper deck. Do you think that was contributed to the price of the tickets? You said they were like $5,000.
Yeah, the average ticket price was $5,000. So even for the seats I saw, the Fox broadcast, they tried their best not to show the empty seats, but they were noticeable, especially in the upper end zone behind the goal posts. And they couldn't help but, show them briefly. But I caught it, and other people in our group, so yeah, they see them too. Like I said, the average seat was $5,000. Even for a nosebleed seat, costs you a couple $100 or $1,000 for, a cheap seat, if you want to call it that. So, and plus, Super Bowl's very expensive event. I think they priced some of the people out. It's more corporate, I think it's more corporate, it's the average fan cannot afford to go to a Super Bowl anymore. It's for the wealthy and the corporations who can buy those luxury suites and those high-priced seats on 50-yard line, but the average guy like you and I can't afford to get. We're priced out the stadium.
No, but it was. I would say that that crowd in Miami. It's hard for sports teams just because of Miami and where it is and the nightlife that they have there in Miami. That they like if you looked at a few years ago when LeBron and those guys was winning championships down there, like it would take almost until like halftime to get the stadium filled. Or if you look at it's hard for the Miami Marlins to get fans into the stadium. Well, probably because they suck. Probably
That's stupid, yeah.
you know. But well, even when they were winning, it was still kind of hard to get fans to the stadium. The Dolphins always play at a there's not a lot of fans at their stadium as well. I think it's just the Miami culture. It's so much stuff to do down there, and it's probably so expensive that it is hard for sports teams to thrive in that area. Just because I think the colleges do better.
Yes.
University of Miami and something like that because it's not as expensive as some of the pro teams down there.
Yeah, I was going to say, see the ESPN 30 for 30 special about the Miami Hurricane, Jimmy Johnson. And back then, when they really were, they were more the old Hurricanes of the 80s under Jimmy Johnson were more popular than the Miami Dolphins. I mean, they got in the clubs, they got all the perks of a pro athlete. I mean, they're more recognizable. The tickets were cheaper than Dolphins tickets, and they got the party retreat like royalty in Miami. Those old 1980 era Jimmy Johnson era Miami Hurricanes. That's what I want Jim Harbaugh to turn the Wolverines into. Not the rough stuff, but to win the championships like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's definitely a thing with the Miami area with the Super Bowl. A couple of things I did like about the NFL All-Century team. The introduction. You see Barry out on the field, and they out there with those little maroon jackets on. That was a good thing to recognize the all-century team. That was a good thing. The one commercial that I really liked, it had something in there I didn't like, one thing, but with the kid with the ball out to the referee to start to kick off the game, I like that commercial where they kind of, he's running through and all the historical figures in the league, like he pretty much ran through every NFL city to bring the ball into the stadium for the kickoff. That was a good marketing job by the NFL.
Yes, I didn't see all the commercials, but the few I saw, I like you see the one with the young man in the cowboy suit who's dancing against the old guy, the Doritos commercial. I kind of like that commercial.
Oh yeah, that's that was Little Nas X, Old Town Road guy. That was a pretty funny commercial. That I didn't like all the political ads. This is the first time that the Super Bowl has really featured campaign ads. I really didn't enjoy that at all. And to some of those people who will always say, well, keep politics out of sports. Well, it was front and center at the Super Bowl when you had all these political ads running through the Super Bowl. I didn't like it at all. And just because of the fact that it was definitely pointed definitely towards a certain demographic. So but that's neither here nor there. I just didn't enjoy it myself.
Right. I didn't care for it either. Well, I gotta ask you, what about the halftime show with J-Lo and?
I like the halftime show. It was very good. I mean, you have to look at those ladies really performed well. J-Lo is 50 and Shakira is 43.
That was her 43rd birthday, Super Bowl Sunday. Her 43rd birthday.
I mean, I think they did a wonderful job. I mean, and people, they were gyrating. And I'm like, that's their culture. Their music is their music. There's a lot of, what do you call that? With the reggaeton, and being bilingual, they brought that kind of Cuban Latin flavor which is a big demographic in Miami to the Super Bowl. So I didn't have a problem with the Super Bowl halftime show. I mean, some of the same people that's complaining this year were the same people that was all loving what Adam Levine last year, on stage with his shirt off, are the same people that's complaining about Shakira and J-Lo. Get over yourself. It was a good halftime show. It's one of the better ones we had the last couple of years. So I think it was very good. I have nothing bad to say about the Super Bowl halftime show. I think they did a wonderful job. J-Lo performed on her daughter. That was pretty good.
Yes.
That was pretty cool. I was like, look at little J Lo out there singing with her mama. So that was cool, man. I have no problems with that.
You
It
know,
was a good halftime show. That's all I can say.
she's supposed to be with us, maybe a little off topic, but she's supposed to be with Alex Rodriguez now.
Well, they're engaged.
Well,
They're
yeah.
engaged.
You think it'll work with
Yeah, they're
Alex
engaged.
Rodriguez? He's the big, one of the biggest woman hoppers if there ever was one. Him and Jeter.
Yeah, I don't know about that stuff, man, but hopefully it does work out with them, man. I mean, they've been together for some years now, and they've been engaged for a little bit, so hopefully everything works out with those two individuals. I wish them happiness in their life together. And last thing I want to really touch on a 2 points conversion is something we talked about. Is this weekend is the start of the XFL.
Yes.
Football isn't going away just yet. I think if it's me, here's my personal opinion. You can tell me yours in a second. I think if they play it right, it could be like the USFL. Before someone got their hands on the USFL and really kind of just diminished the product. The USFL was a good league because it gave you that year-round football where they started in the spring. And then by the time their season was over, it was time for the NFL. If it's played right, I think it's the same thing can happen. I think that the XFL, we talked about this off air, they're taking a different approach this time. It's not a whole bunch of fanfare. It's not built like wrestling on the football field like it was before. Vince McMahon is not the front person anymore. He has a CEO and a president of the organization who's actually running the day-to-day operations of the league. So I think this is going to be some interesting stuff right here, the XFL.
Plus, he has financial backing, more money. Because remember last year that league, the AAFL, whatever it was called, it was actually doing pretty good. You get some ratings. It wasn't sellouts with some nice in-house stadium attendance, but they collapsed in the middle of the season because of lack of financing. One of their chief backers, he didn't come for the money like he was supposed to. But one thing that any terribly, like I said, like our webpage, it takes time to build things up, and with a new sports league, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of money, and maybe Vince McMahon learned his lessons from 20 years ago, what not to do, and how to be successful run a pro league. Let's see if the product's any better. It was more efficient than it was 20 years ago. So I'm going to give it a look. Football fanatics. They was watching the AFL last year. Before they collapsed, get the XFL chance.
Right. I think that they have more former NFLers in the XFL than they did previously. I think another thing is that it's going to be more football focused, not a lot of crazy rules. Now there is some different rules in the XFL. One of them being, we talked about this off air again. They have a double forward pass in the XFL this year, which a quarterback can throw a screen pass as long as it's forward, and as long as the running back or the receiver, whoever catches the ball, is behind the line of scrimmage, he can throw the ball forward again. So double forward pass is a new wrinkle for that league. And another wrinkle that they have is their play clock is always going to be 25 seconds. So it's going to be a lot faster pace than the NFL, where they got to get up to the line and go. Once a play is over, they got to get it to the line and go because they only got 25 seconds in between plays. So, and one thing that might help them out, I think the tickets are around $50 a person. That's what the CEO was on NFL Live a couple of days ago talking about the league, and I think he believed that the tickets are around $50 a person for the game. So you can take your whole family for $50 a game.
But still,
$50 a person.
A family of four is $200. That's about the same as NFL get ticket.
Well, depends on what stadium you're going to and where you're sitting. I think he was talking about lower level is $50, right? Right toward down the field on the field. So I think that's their most expensive is like $50. I don't think they're gonna have like higher price seats like they have in NFL. $50 get you nosebleed seats in Ford Field. You know what I'm saying?
If that,
So,
get get you standing room only tickets.
Yeah. So I think that, they're trying to make it where it's affordable and they're just trying to build the brand. So one way to do that is to definitely start the tickets off lower so you can get people in the stadium watching the product. And if you have a good quality product on the field, you can build your league that way.
Yes.
I hope it can be like the start of the USFL, where you had good quality football that was played in the spring, and you can have football pretty much year round. I'm a lifelong football fan, and I would like to have football year round. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna look at this weekend. I'm gonna take a look at it and see what's going on with the league.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't make the same mistake LeVar Ball made by overcharging $100 to see some high school kids play, in his JBL.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. It's not going to be exactly the same as the NFL, but hopefully they have a better product, than the AAFL. We'll see how it's going to go. I think the big thing with the USFL is that they were signing players out of college that were would have been high draft picks in the NFL. You had Jim Kelly,
Herschel
Walker, what's my man, Doug Flutie. So you had some big name players coming out of college going straight into the USFL. Would that happen with the XFL? Time will tell. Will they have the same type of rules and collective bargaining agreement with the players where they can sign? Because here's the deal. The NFL has the rule that they have to do, 3 years in college? Mm-hmm. Will the XFL have that same rule? Will they follow that same blueprint? Or will they let a freshman come in, a guy who played 1 year in college and come out and play in the XFL?
Wow. That depends on if they can last. They stick around for some time,
Yeah, depends on how they run their league and how it's operated. But hopefully it's better than they did last time. I don't want to see Jesse Ventura in the broadcast booth. I want to see some knowledgeable football guys talking about football and not having a wrestling announcer type
Jerry the King Lawler
at the actual game. Yeah. All right. That's 2 points conversion this week. When we get back, my man Seany J is going to have another Our Pride profile on a Lions legendary player. All right, we're back from the break. My man, Seany J, who do you have for this week's Our Pride profile?
Well, I don't know if he's exactly legendary, as you put it, but he was a pretty decent player back in the day. He's one of my favorite players. He's a former quarterback and local pride from the Dearborn Divine Child, Gary Danielson. Gary Danielson was born in Detroit, Michigan on September 10, 1951. He's a local kid. As I said, he went to Dearborn Divine Child. And from there, he went to Purdue University, where he was on a long line of former Purdue quarterbacks who played in the NFL. He was a starting quarterback for his last 2 seasons, and he had a pretty good career at Purdue. However, he was not drafted in the 1974 draft. Therefore, he started his pro career in the Old World Football League. You remember those guys? He was mainly a backup in the World League before they folded themselves midway through the 1975 season. For the 1976 season, he was signed by the Detroit Lions as a backup to Greg Landry and Joe Reed. He started a few games in the 1977 season when Greg Landry was benched for a poor player who was injured. And by midway 1978 season, he had overtaken Landry for the starting Lions quarterback job and just missed the playoffs with them. Lions were so impressed with Danielson, they traded away Greg Landry prior to the 79 season to the Baltimore Colts, and they named Danielson the starting quarterback and gave him a hefty raise. But we didn't know what Lions luck. Danielson got hurt, injured his knee in the last preseason game in Baltimore, and missed the entire 1979 season. And the Lions went 2-14 that year. Gary came back the following year, 1980, to reclaim the starting job. He had a pretty good rookie running back with him to help him out, in the backfield, give him another weapon, another option. Some guy named Sims, who was the top pick in the 1980 draft. Yes, he not the original number 20, but the middle number 20, because we know the original number 20 was Mr. Lynn Barney, but Sims was the next number 20, Hall of Fame type player who helped Danielson out. Gary Danielson, he held the starting job all 1980. We had set some Lions pay at the time with the Lions all time passing yardage for over 3,000 yards. The first Lions cornerback do that in the single season. Danielson started the next season, 1981. He started the first 4 games. However, he suffered a broken wrist in the game against the world champion Oakland Raiders when the Lions upset them 16-0 at the Phoenix Citadel. I remember watching that game on NBC Sports. He wouldn't return to the last week of the season. By that time, a new quarterback came in town, a new sensation at the time. Remember Hippo, he was very excited for the Lions. He run the Lions fans' hearts, and he kept the starting job, almost at the Lions to the playoffs. And he would have if Freddie Scott could have caught the damn ball in the final game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He would have ricocheted off his shoulder pass for a Buccaneer interception that ruined the Lions' chances. Excuse me, sir. The following season, Danielson split the strike-shortened 1982 season with Hippo with the quarterback position. The Lions made the playoffs with 4-5 record for the first time since 1970. They got in because the playoffs were expanded, the teams were expanded. However, Eric Hippo got the starting nod in a loss at Washington that year. The following year, once again, they split time during the regular season. Danielson and Hippo. Hippo won the final game, the regular season time. This once again against Tampa Bay, giving the Lions their first playoff, division title since the World Championship in 1957. However, Eric got hurt in that final game against Tampa Bay, leaving Gary Danielson to be the starter the following week, the playoff game with San Fran. Danielson, he had an up and down game. They could have won. However, he threw 5 interceptions in that playoff game. Still, he had a chance to win. If only Eddie Murphy could have made a chip shot field goal, we could advance that year. So many near misses for the Lions. Danielson's last season with the Lions was the final of 1984. He started all 16 games. They went 4-11-1 after Billy Sims suffered his career-ending injury and Monty Clark got fired, and he brought a new head coach, Gerald Rogers. He was traded to the Cleveland Browns, where he finished his career there in 1988. After, Danielson had a pretty good after football life. He went to radio broadcasting. He helped broadcast some Lion preseason games. He was part of the radio show, The Locker Room, with Eli Zared and Kirk Gibson. And for the past several years, he's been one of the lead color announcers for SEC football and on CBS. So Gary Danielson, like so many Lions, he had a better career after football than he did when he was playing for them. But he was one of my favorite guys, growing up. So hats off to former Lion Gary Danielson.
All right. Good file, my man, Gary Danielson. Outstanding job as usual. Now it is time for Now You Know. This week, we're going to cover offensive blocking rules. So we'll be back right after this. Now You Know is brought to you by Foster Camera Solutions. For your home or business security needs, call Dan at Foster Camera Solutions for a free estimate at 248-672-8640 with no monthly fees and self-monitoring from your smartphone, computer, or tablet. Let Foster Camera Solutions design a security camera system that fits your needs. You can also visit their Facebook page for more information at facebook.com/Foster Camera Solutions. Remember, Foster Camera Solutions when securing your home or business. What up, though? This is Kurt Steele, and welcome to this week's edition of Now You Know. This week, we're going to cover Section 12, Player Conduct, Article 2 and 3, Legal Block and Illegal Block by an offensive player. We're going to read the rule out of the rule book and break it down for you so you can better understand it when you're watching the games on Sunday. So let's hop to it. Article 2, Legal Block by offensive player. An offensive player is permitted to block an opponent by contacting him with his head, shoulders, hands, and or outer surface of the forearm or with any other part of his body that is not prohibited by another rule. All right. really quick, break it down. You can use those things, your head, your hands, or an outer part of your forearm to make a block. A blocker may use his arms or open or closed hands to contact an opponent on or outside the opponent's frame, the body of an opponent below the neck that is presented to the blocker, provided that he does not materially restrict him. Now you'll hear this term, materially restrict him, throughout these rules. Materially restrict him means grabbing the person by the jersey. The blocker must work immediately to bring his hands inside the opponent's frame. Inside the frame is within the shoulders. As the play develops, the blocker is permitted to work for and maintain his position against an opponent, provided that he does not illegally clip or push from behind. That's pretty self-explanatory. Clipping is when you use your feet or legs to trip someone up and you cannot push someone in the back. But we'll get to the push in the back here in a second. An offensive player is permitted to use his hands or arms to restrict an opponent. 1. If he is a runner may ward off opponents with his hands or arms. So basically a stiff arm. He may also lay his hand on a teammate to push him into an opponent. So you can block a offensive player into a defensive player, but he may not grasp or hold on to a teammate. So you can put your hand and push the person, but you can't grab them by the jersey and sling them into another opponent. 2, during a loose ball that has touched the ground, an offensive player may use his hands or arms legally to block or otherwise push or pull an opponent out of the way in a personal attempt to recover the ball. Now, there's specific rules for recovering a fumble, pass, or kick rules. We're not getting into that on this segment. A player of the kicking team, number 3, for blocking restrictions during a kick. So there's also blocking restrictions during a kickoff or a free kick. Let's get into Article 3. What's an illegal block by offensive player? It is a foul if an offensive blocker thrusts his hands forward above the frame of the opponent, forcibly contacting him on the head, neck, or face. Note, contact in close line play is not a foul unless it is direct and forcible or prolonged. So basically, you're doing it on purpose or you have your hand in the wrong position longer than necessary. The penalty for illegal use of hands by the offense is a loss of 10 yards. Okay. 2, if an offensive player blocks an opponent from behind, in the back, above the opponent's waist, or uses his hands or arms to push an opponent from behind in a manner that affects his movement, except in close line play. Now, here's another note. The prohibition also applies to a player of a kicking team while the ball is in flight during a free kick or scrimmage kick. So basically, you can't block a player in the back, definitely if the ball's in the air on a punt or a kickoff. So the use of hands on the back is not a foul. 1, if a player is making a personal attempt to recover a loose ball. 2, the opponent turns away from a blocker when the contact is imminent. So basically, if a defensive player is rushing and does a spin move and the offensive player touches his back, that is not a foul. Or 3, both of the blocker's hands are on the opponent's side. Or if either hand is on the one side and one is on the back, it's not a foul. The penalty for illegal block in the back above the waist by the offense is a loss of 10 yards. It is also an illegal block by offensive player if he uses his hands or arms to materially restrict or alter a defender's path or angle of pursuit. It is a foul regardless of whether the blocker's hands are inside or outside of the frame of the defender's body. Material restrictions include, but are not limited to, grabbing or tackling an opponent, hooking, jerking, or twisting, or turning him or pulling him to the ground. Now, like we said earlier, material restrictions is when you grab the person by the jersey. The penalty for holding on the offense is a loss of 10 yards. Here's some blocking notes. when a defensive player is being held by offensive player during the following situations, offensive holding will not be called. 1. If the runner is being tackled by another player on the defense. 2. If the runner simultaneously runs out of bounds. 3. If a fair catch is being made simultaneously as the hold. 4. If the action clearly occurs after a forward pass has been thrown to a receiver beyond the line of scrimmage. 5. If the action occurs away from the point of attack and not within close line play. 6. A free kick results in a touchback, which is a punt. 7. A scrimmage kick simultaneously becomes a touchback, which is a kickoff. 8. If the action is part of a double team block, unless the defender splits the double team to get outside of either blocker or is taken to the ground, or if it is during a defensive charge, a defensive player uses a rip technique that puts the offensive player in a position that will normally be holding. So basically, if a defensive player uses a rip move and it actually causes offensive holding, holding will not be called. There's one exception. Holding will be called if the defender's feet are taken away from him by the blocker's actions, except if a blocker falls on or pushes the defender to the ground whose momentum is carrying him to the ground. Offensive holding will not be called unless the blocker prevents the defender from rising from the ground, or if the official has not seen the entire action that sends the defender to the ground. Offensive holding will not be called in that situation. So there you have it. What's a legal block and what's an illegal block in the NFL? If you don't know, now you know. Like my man Biggie Smalls, baby. Now let's get back to the Die Hard Den podcast with my man Seany J. Okay, we're back from Now You Know. Seany J, I will have to apologize to you, my man. You were right last week. Your answer of Leon Hart was correct. I said you were wrong. So you had all 5 questions on Stump the Sean correct last week. But now we have some new questions for Stump the Sean. So this week we have a fresh batch of 5 questions to ask you. So let's get at it. In 1951, what Lions Hall of Fame safety became the first player in NFL history to return 2 punts for a touchdown in the same game?
That is a tough one. I'm going to say Jimmy David Hart, something like that.
Jack Christensen.
Oh, gosh. You got me there.
Jack Christensen. Jack Christensen. We stomping the Sean this week.
What's the next question?
How many Heisman Trophy winners have been drafted by the Lions?
Drafted by the Lions. Give me a minute to do this particular. 2, 4. Let's see. Let me name them. I know there's Steve Owens, that's 1. Billy Sims is 2. Barry Sanders is 3. Andre Ware is 4. I think they had somebody behind before that. Byron Wizard White, he won it. That make 5. He said draft. He played the drafted, but I'm gonna stick with 5.
Man, a little bit behind this week. 10.
10 guys.
10 Lions have drafted 10. Because you gotta remember, goes back because you didn't even mention the guy we talked about last week.
Yes,
he was the last the Heisman Trophy winner. That was the lineman that was drafted by the Lions.
Who are they?
All right, I don't have the. It's just told me 10. I got a little Detroit trivia deck.
Yes, well I got half of them. Half of them. Yes.
Okay. Now you should get this one, guy, because this is a little bit. This is your age group right here, or a little bit after, before. I mean, What Lions wide receiver who's 85 is retired became the first NFL player to die in a 1971 game when he suffered a heart attack against the Chicago?
Yeah, I got them. Chuck Hughes.
Yeah, Chuck Hughes. You got that one.
Yeah, oddly, I heard he was the first only player to die on the field, which is kind of interesting because back in the day, I thought more players got, killed in the early days of football. That's why we're thinking of banning him at the time.
Yeah.
But I guess he's official, modern day, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So, in what Hall of Fame linebacker allowed the number 56 to be used so the Lions could sign Pat Swilling in 19?
Oh, it get easier now. Joe Schmidt. And there's a lot of controversy over that, too,
All right. Yeah, that was right. So, and here is the last question. What Lions defensive tackle is known for his 7 sacks of Green Bay quarterback Bart Starr, including one for a safety in the 1962 game known as the Thanksgiving Day Massacre?
I remember the game, but the guy got 7 sacks. It's a tough one. I'm going to go Alex Karras.
Roger Brown.
Close.
Man, we stumped the Sean.
I went 2 out of 5.
2 for 5 this week. Hey, that's some good stuff this week. We'll be back next week with some more Lions trivia to stump the Sean. Now it is time to announce the winner of the eco-friendly knapsack. We'll be giving away our new giveaway will be announced next week. Dina Marie Simon, please message us at the Die Hard Den Facebook page to receive instructions on how to claim your prize. So again, Dina Marie Simon, you are the winner of the Lions eco-friendly hand-woven.
Congratulations, Dina.
So congratulations, Dina. Okay, now it's time for us to go ahead and get on out of here. So, my man, Sean, tell the people how they can get a hold of you on social media.
Like I say, go to Facebook for Sean Jennings. I'm the Lions Truth fan. We'll add you.
Okay. All right. So for me, you can find me at Instagram and Twitter at Curtis Steele 14, CurtisSteele14. You can also find the show on Facebook, facebook.com/DieHardDen. On Twitter, it's at DieHardDenPodC1. On Instagram, it's at die_hard_den_podcast. And as always, you can email the show at dieharddenpodcast@gmail.com. All right, well, thank you again for listening this week. We appreciate you listening to our content, and we'll be back here next week with a fresh new podcast. So we really appreciate the individuals who are reaching out and liking and following the Facebook page. And I appreciate the individuals in the separate groups that are commenting on the links that we're sharing on those pages as well, to include the Detroit Lions diehards and the Detroit Lions Truest fan page. Big shout out to those 2 pages and all the other pages out there that we are posting our content on, and they are supporting us as a podcast and as a Facebook page. So thank you very much. And as always, this is Kurt Steele. And for my man, Seany J, we are out.